The sun was a dying ember, bleeding orange light through the jagged silhouettes of the Norwegian pines. It was Midsummer's Eve, the night when the veil between the world of men and the world of the others grows thin enough to tear. Ingrid walked deeper into the thicket than she intended, gathering wildflowers. Old legends promised they would bring dreams of a future husband, but the forest felt different tonight. The air was heavy, smelling of damp earth and crushed mint. Mist didn't just sit on the ground, it seemed to reach for her ankles. Then she heard it. It wasn't the wind or the rush of the nearby stream. It was a violin, and the melody was high and impossibly. It vibrated in the marrow of her bones, sounding like every regret, every lost summer, every whispered goodbye, all turned into a honey-sweet lullaby. Ingrid stopped. Her bundle of wildflowers slipped from her numb fingers. Her eyes went glassy, reflecting the fading amber light of the sky. She wasn't Ingrid anymore, she was a puppet. The music held the strings. She turned away from the path, her boots sinking into the saturated ground. She moved toward the sound, pushed by a sudden, desperate need to see the musician. She pushed through a final curtain of ferns and found herself at the edge of a deep, obsidian pool. The water was terrifyingly still. Sitting on a jagged rock in the dead center of the pool was a man. His skin was pale and translucent, like a fish's belly, and his hair was the tangled, dark green of riverweed. He held a violin made of bleached driftwood, his fingers moving with a grace that wasn't human. He didn't look at his instrument, he looked only at her. The music intensified. It promised that the weight of the world could simply float away. It promised that in the dark water, there was peace. He smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the most handsome man Ingrid had ever seen, until he opened his mouth to reveal teeth like jagged water-worn river stones. He beckoned with a slight nod. Ingrid reached out a trembling hand, her foot slipping on the slick, neon-green moss. She leaned over the dark water, drawn to her own reflection, which was beginning to shift and warp into something skeletal and gray. "It's so beautiful, ... she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "I can finally hear the rest of it, ... Just as her center of gravity shifted, just as she began to tip toward the waiting blackness, a sudden crash echoed from the brush. An old man, breathless and panicked, burst into the clearing. He didn't try to grab her. He knew the spell was too tight for a physical touch to break. Instead, he simply pointed a gnarled finger at the musician and screamed a single, sharp word into the quiet encon. The music stopped with a violent, sickening snap, like a bone breaking. The handsome man's face contorted, melting into a mask of pure, ancient rage. He let out a hiss like steam hitting ice, and the driftwood violin turned to rot in his hands. He collapsed backward into the water, but there was no splash. He dissolved into a violent swirl of black foam, drowned insects, and dead leaves. Ingrid gasped, stumbling back from the ledge as if she'd been slapped. She blinked, the color rushing back into her face, her eyes finally clearing as she looked at the stagnant, empty pool. The forest was silent again, save for the natural, frantic chirping of a bird in the distance. The truth is, the only thing a lie cannot breathe. Speak his name, and the water stays still. Forget it, and you become the music's next chord. To find more thrilling mysteries and true crime cases, subscribe now.